Yes, Vimalji, please begin.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Friday evening program on behalf of the Indian section. Let us all join together in the universal invocation. O hidden life, vibrant in every atom. O hidden light, shining in every creature. O hidden love, embracing all in oneness. May all who feel themselves as one with thee know they are therefore one with every other. Before beginning today, let me quickly introduce the speaker to you who's well known to everybody. Yet this is just a brief introduction. Brother N.C. Krishna from Hyderabad, he joined the Theosophical Society at the age of 16, almost 60 years ago, and he has held several posts, and he is also an active member. He's a national and international speaker. He's a chartered accountant by profession, and he believes that living theosophy with divine wisdom is his sole purpose in life. So today we'll be doing letter number 131 or number 66. So please go ahead, sir. You're mute, sir.
Thank you very much. Perhaps it would be enough to say N.C. Krishna will perhaps present this letter. That would be good enough. Anyway, I thank you. Letter number 66 of Barker edition, of edition number 1, page number 360. And I normally go through that guide which is there, written by George Linton and Virginia Hanson, to understand the description of the letter and also the circumstances which governed perhaps the letter to come to AP Sinnet. So, Mr. AP Sinnet received this letter according to the book on 10th August, but they say there could have been a delay, and that's not the exact date on which he got the letter. So Master KH has written this letter. In fact, we should say precipitated this letter in sharp blue pencil on both sides of 4 full-sized sheets of paper of white color. All this description perhaps would help us to imagine how that letter looks like. Perhaps people who have gone to the London Museum, British Museum, they know how it is. But then other people, by going through the book which they have written, having examined all the letters, so that gives a good impression about how the letter appeared before Mr. Sinnet. The cover is addressed to Mr. Sinnet to his London address, but the handwriting on the cover is unknown. It is not belonging to either KH or somebody else who had done the transmission part of it. Okay. The circumstances, AP Sinnet had gone to Germany to see Madame Blavatsky or visit Madame Blavatsky. So both Mr. Sinnet and Madame Blavatsky returned to London from their trip of Germany, and Henry Steele Olcott returned to India. And at this juncture, at this point of time, the Coulomb missionary plot was about to break on the Theosophists and the Theosophical Society. So the adverse report of Hodgson was about to be published or released. They appointed a person to go into the details of the charges which were leveled against the Theosophical Society and precisely against Madame Blavatsky, and the report was about to be published or released. This letter addressed to Mr. Sinnet was at that juncture when the situation is very, very fluid and a lot of attention is drawn by Master to egg on Mr. Sinnet to work for and to help the society, in the Theosophical Society, and Madame Blavatsky to support the whole cause. And there are references on page 360. There is a reference to a particular person called Friend, and it is said by the book, the guidebook, it is Jwalakul, DK. And LCH is Elsie Holloway, who was a person known to Mr. A.P. Sinnet. She was living perhaps at London or France, is what the guidebook says. KH indicates the difficulties the society is going to face, the difficulties which will bother the society no end. Master KH says, A.P. Sinnet, in a way, is responsible due to his publications of his two books, The Occult World and The Esoteric Buddhism. Details and contents of occultism were thrown open to public through these publications. That's what Master KH had to say. And page 362 refers to Mrs. Holloway again in a detailed manner. So coming to the letter proper, Master says, though the reasons or explanation for delay of transmission of a reply to his letter from Elberfield, where he had gone to see Madame Blavatsky, is not needed, he says it's mainly due to non-availability of the services of Madame Blavatsky that the delay was there. Master says it was impossible not to use the main channel and send the letter through someone else. That is, Madame Blavatsky was transmitting all the letters received from masters to Mr. Sinnet. In fact, it was the recommendation of Madame Blavatsky to the masters that the masters agreed to share the information to Mr. Sinnet. So Madame Blavatsky was traveling, and another reason why she could not perhaps do the transmission was because she was not keeping well, or she was not in good health. Master says, I had used the main channel all these days in the past, as I observed that you and Madame Blavatsky have hit off in a good relationship. In the sense, both of you have trusted each other. The personal relations between Madame Blavatsky and Mr. Sinnet were good. That's what Master said. That's the reason why I chose Madame Blavatsky as the transmitting or transmission agent. So I largely used, Master says, that channel of Madame Blavatsky, and we all know the letters, though Mr. Sinnet wanted the letters to be received directly from the masters, they were always passed through the hands of, or after HPB transmitted them and put them in a cover and sent it across wherever this gentleman was living. Master KH says, the friend, referring to Jwalakul, had to exert more of his powers to transmit this letter for your sake. It is a lengthy letter, one, and he was doing it perhaps as a stopgap arrangement. And so he says, Master says, the friend Jwalakul, friend who is called Jwalakul, referred as friend, had to exert more of his powers to transmit this letter for your sake. Jwalakul may not have talked about the transmission which he has done with you, and it is not needed also, says the master. Talking about it, Jwalakul talking about it, or talking about the transmission, will not do any good to either or anyone. That's what master says. So this is something which we have noticed in the first paragraph of the letter. Master KH is instructing, Master KH is instructing Mr. Sinnet to introspect, look within himself, watch over himself, look in detail about his own self. that is to look within. And Master says, you are not doing this strictly, you're not watching yourself, says the Master. If you don't do this course correction after observing your own self, it might bring to an end this receiving of letters by you forever. This is the comment he has made. If you don't do the course correction after looking within yourself, it might bring to an end this receiving of letters by you forever. Why AP Sinnet should watch himself? Master explains. Further, Master says, without applying your sense, or rather working insensibly or senselessly, you are encouraging a tendency or have developed a habit of yielding to dogmatism and unjustly, unnecessarily developing misconceptions about persons and their motives. That is, misjudging people and laying down certain personal beliefs, propagating them as undeniable truths. This method is dogmatic approach according to Master KH. So Master, why is he asking to look within? Mr. Sinnet should watch himself. He is perhaps acting without proper applying his full sense or common sense or whatever we can talk about. He is rather working insensibly is the word used, and he is asking or he's stating that Sinnet is encouraging a tendency or has developed a habit of yielding to dogmatism and unjustly, unnecessarily developing misconceptions about persons and their motives. That is, misjudging people and laying down certain personal beliefs, propagating them as undeniable truths. I have repeated it purposefully because it is something which is applicable to us even today. We don't belong to a society where dogmatism is practiced, and we don't unjustly, unnecessarily develop misconceptions and unjustly criticize anyone. In fact, if there is someone who is being attacked, the golden stair says you should go to his rescue. So there are no motives attributed, no question of developing misconceptions. So purposefully have read this again for the sake of noting down by the members, so that we should not yield to dogmatism and we should not also misjudge people or pass judgment on people and can't propagate personal beliefs, what I know or what I understand as gospel truths. So this is what he had said. Master says, Sinnet sometimes treats absurdities as goody-goody ones. Even absurdities he doesn't seem to be taking note of. And he says, sometimes Sinnet, Mr. Sinnet, treats absurdities also as goody-goody ones. The English society with a stiffer upper lip, which is referred by Master as your world, meaning the world to which AP Sinnet belongs, or AP Sinnet's circle. Master says, normally no one is allowed to moralize to the other. Normally no one is allowed to moralize to the other. So my words of asking you to watch yourself, look within yourself, and remove all false opinions about persons and their motives. You, meaning AP Sinnet, may not like my words or suggestions, says the Master. So maybe my words will be of no use. They're perhaps written and go in vain. This is what he is saying. You may not like my words or suggestions. Maybe my words will be of no use. They are perhaps written and go in vain because the way they function, the English society functions. Master says you are not going to be happy about this objective criticism. However, Master says, Sinnet is desirous of continuing the correspondence with the Master. However, Master says Sinnet is desirous of wanting to continue the correspondence, not to end the correspondence by any method. So that's the reason why Master says, I am putting out and bringing it to your notice that you should look within yourself, lest the correspondence should come to an end. If you don't do it, if you don't do the course correction, the correspondence will come to an end. That's what the Master is indicating. Master says, beware of this unkind, unsympathetic, uncharitable spirit. Master is asking or warning Mr. Sinnet, beware of this unkind, unsympathetic, uncharitable spirit. This not desirable tendency in you, which will act like a hungry wolf, which will eat away all the good qualities which you are developing in your life. This is what Master is saying. He says, beware of this unkind, unsympathetic, uncharitable spirit, which will act like a hungry wolf, which will eat away all the good qualities which are springing up in your life. Master is warning, if there is no change in his attitude, Master is warning, if there is no change in his attitude, if he continues to be uncharitable, unsympathetic, unkind, that wolfish behavior will work against his personality. So this is what Master is saying. Very clearly, he gives an indication as to what sea change has to happen in A.P. Sinnet's way of living. So Master advises Mr. Sinnet to broaden his sympathies or sympathetic outlook and not to narrow them down. So Master advises A.P. Sinnet to broaden his sympathetic outlook and not to narrow that method, narrow it down. Master says, broaden your way of thinking, don't narrow it down. Master says, try to be good to all. Try to be good to all. Mingle with others, fellow members, and not be good with only chosen few. This is, again, something which perhaps we do unconsciously. So Master is saying, try to be good to all. Inclusive philosophy is what we practice. So Master says, try to be good to all, mingle with others, fellow members, and not be good with only chosen few. Those few persons who show affinity to you are not the only people to deal with. So it's not a mutual admiration club which will form. So that's perhaps what, in a way, Master is indicating. So he says, mingle with all, see that all the members come together, don't act with few, chosen few, and because people show affinity to you, don't be led into a feeling that they are the people to deal with. So whatever may be the reason, he's talking about the various mistakes that have happened is what perhaps Sinnet has talked about. So whatever may be the reason, whether mistakes have happened at Adyar or Allahabad, that is his place where he was working, or it could be due to means Master's negligence, or due to the aggressive or vicious behavior of Madame Blavatsky. Whatever may be the reason, it could be all these could be reasons. It is a fact that we have a crisis before us, and we have to face the crisis and see that we come out of that crisis. So Master is saying, Mr. Sinnet should, at this time of crisis, enhance and expand his practical, moral strengths and powers. This is something which we need to do because we have to fight against people who are immoral, people who are trying to say certain things not so kind to the Theosophical Society, and people who have been employed by Madame Blavatsky, they crossed over and they started spreading the stories. So we have a crisis before us, says the master, and he's asking Sinnet, should at this time of crisis enhance and expand his practical moral strengths and powers to enable himself to face the crisis. So that would help him to face the crisis if you expand and enhance the moral and practical strengths and powers. Then master says, this is not the time. He's coming down a bit heavily on Mr. Sinnet. Master says, maybe he has written a lot of things about if this has not happened, this wouldn't have come, and things like that. So master says to Mr. Sinnet, this is not the time to show disapprovals or resentments. It's not the time to adopt a revengeful, vindictive attitude or express opposite opinions. He has already done it. So master is talking about it. Master says this is not the time to show disapprovals or resentments. It is not the time to adopt a revengeful, vindictive attitude or express opposite opinions. Accusations, and he uses another word, recriminations. So master says, we drop all these qualities or negative qualities and work unitedly. We should struggle or wage a war against this situation which is affecting the Theosophical Society and Madame Blavatsky. This is what he is telling Mr. Sinnet. Master says, whosoever sowed the seeds of the present storm or tempest, master says, whosoever sowed the seeds of the present storm or tempest, the air, the strong wind encircling us, and the storm as such is spreading rapidly around us, is strong and wild. So this is what master is saying. Whosoever sowed, it could be anyone. Maybe Sinnet feels it is because of Madam HPB's method of working. So whoever actually planted those seeds of the present storm or tempest, the wind circulating and the storm spreading rapidly around us is strong and growing wild. Master says the whole of TS, the whole of the Theosophical Society is facing this storm, and it is fanned and not weakened from Shigaste, a place from where help could have come, but help has not come. Help has not been forthcoming. So he says it is unfortunate that no help is coming from Shigaste. I believe it's a place somewhere in the beyond Tibet. And master says to Sinnet, you laugh and ridicule when we use the word probations, because he always thought he has already become a chela. But though there is a lot of correspondence which master has given, a lot of rules which he has expressed, Mr. Sinnet feels that he is already there. He has reached, he has arrived. So he has been ridiculing the concept which masters have as far as probations is concerned. So master is saying to Sinnet, you laugh and ridicule when we use the word probations. Master says, this is another interesting thing which we should note down. Master says, anyone who approaches and enters the precincts, that is area, even in thought. Master says, anyone who approaches and enters the precincts, area, that means even in thought, is drawn into the vortex of probation. So one has to be true to his thinking as well as the pattern of behavior which he should be there to become a chela. So he'll be drawn into the vortex of probation is what Master is saying. To say exactly, the person will get drawn into the whirlpool of probation. The person, to say exactly, will get drawn into the whirlpool of probation. This is what Master is saying. So if you're doing well, you will automatically come into the area where probation and other things will fall in place. Then he now says to Epicenet, asks him, requests him, or instructs him, at any rate, your temple, says the master, meaning the Theosophical Society, is tottering, unsteady, and shaking in its steps. This is what Master is telling. At any rate, whatever may be the reason, what could be the various fallouts, your temple, says the Master, meaning the Theosophical Society, is tottering, unsteady, and shaking in its steps. So Master says, unless you support the wall of the Theosophical Society by putting your shoulder against it and help the Theosophical Society from dropping down, unless you put your shoulder and support that wall of the Theosophical Society, nothing is going to happen. Casual efforts are not going to yield results. Casual efforts are not going to yield results. A constant eye to the ideal of human progression is what Madame Blavatsky talks about, which is again a letter written by Master to her in the golden stage. So it's not a casual eye or a casual approach which will give results. So casual efforts are not enough, but tremendous efforts are required to face and fight this crisis, says the Master. Master warns Mr. Sinnet, you may share the same fate as Samson. Perhaps he's drawing a parallel from the Bible, where the person Samson is supposed to have been very, very strong person, very powerful person, but then when he was not cooperating with the law or the God's plan, all his strength was drained out. He became powerless. The power which otherwise was available to him was of no use. So he says he will become like that if you are not helping the cause. Master says, this is another interesting thing for all of us to note down. Master says, pride and dignified contempt without actually putting all efforts. Master says, pride and dignified contempt. You're silent, you have contempt about it, you don't talk about it, you don't work against it. You simply keep quiet because you think, yes, it shouldn't have been done. I don't somehow support this, but that's not enough. That's what he's saying. Master says pride. Pride is something which you should avoid. And dignified contempts also we should avoid, meaning without actually putting all efforts, if one only has great sense of contempt in his heart, it's not enough. It's not enough. That's what Master is saying. It won't help at all. It won't help the cause at all. That's what the Master is saying. So Master says, these traits of pride and contempt will not help us to face the present set of circumstances. So lip sympathy is no good, or wanting to do, having an intention to do, but not exactly doing is not going to help. So he's saying you should leave all this dignified contempt, silenced contempt, or the pride, and work against these circumstances, which are actually dethroning the people who are running the society, or the Theosophical Society as such also is receiving a lot of criticism. Now he's shifting his attention to occultism. Master says, occultism, if one understands, is like a treasure. Master is telling Mr. Sinnet, occultism, if one understands perfectly, is like a treasure, because occultism is a treasure. It is guarded by gnomes and feeds. Gnomes are, I believe, creatures which are very, very small, but they will protect the treasure. And feeds are evil spirits, which will also work jealously to guard the secrets. So most of you, Master is saying, most of you are seeking occult knowledge. Most of you are seeking occult knowledge, wanting to know that knowledge completely, fully. So it's a treasure. It's not open to all. One has to work for it. One has to earn the arhata, means the eligibility to get that knowledge. Mere seeking will not help you. That's what he's indicating to Mr. Sinnet. Most of you are seeking occult knowledge, wanting to know that knowledge fully and completely. Master identifies specially that Sinnet is a prime person who wants to know more of that occult knowledge. So he has exhibited his enthusiasm or his inquisitiveness to know more about the occult knowledge. And now Master is saying, it is not Madame Blavatsky or Henry Steele Olcott who have awakened the interest about occult knowledge, either individually or collectively or through the Theosophical Society in public. It is not these two people who have awakened the knowledge. Master says, he has sent that in the letter number 55 also. So he says, it is Mr. Sinnet through his two books who has actually brought that knowledge into open. And the faithful guardians also have noticed it, and this is happening is what they have noticed. So those who have that knowledge, will be put to severe tests. This is something which we also know from the practical occultism, where 3 or 4 essays of Madame Blavatsky has been reduced into a book or printed in a book, where she talks about so many things which will come out when one enters into the arena of occultism. Those who have that knowledge will be put to severe tests. And Master is saying, from my above words, infer whatever you want. Whatever you want. He is asking Sinnet, whatever you want to guesstimate or understand, do whatever. Inference is logical process. Infer whatever you want, says Master to Sinnet. Master says, only he himself, that is Master KH himself, along with his brother, meaning Master M, are the ones who have in their hearts the capacity or power to disseminate the doctrines, the occult doctrines. That too, within certain boundaries and with some limitations. That's what Master is saying. So it is only he and Master M, who is referred as brother in this letter, are the ones who have in their hearts the capacity or power to disseminate those doctrines within certain boundaries or limitations. Master KH further says, HPB was the channel or machinery through which we have done it. We have spread the occult doctrine. Mr. KH says, we know, in fact, both Master KH and Master M were asked not to come directly onto the earth and work for the Theosophical Society, and they were asked to choose the representatives. So they chose representatives in HPV and Olcott. So KH says, HPV was the channel or machinery through which we have done it, means spread or given the doctrines, occult doctrines. HPV was our docile agent. She was very cooperative. She was not saying anything against anything. So she was our docile agent, a calm agent who brought out our doctrines faithfully. That's what the Master is saying. Then he's coming to the charges which Sinnet has on Madame Blavatsky. Even if we accept what you talk disparagingly all that you talk about Madame Blavatsky, it's not going to help, he says. It's not going to help. Even if you accept what you say, what you talk, not in good terms about HBB, all that you talk about her is not going to help. Even otherwise, you have to put all your efforts, because you say she is responsible for this crisis. So he says all that may be right according to you, but don't get into that. Even otherwise, you have to put all your efforts, never relax in your efforts, never relax in your efforts to save the severe situation the Theosophical Society is facing today, and proceed to work in a swifter, faster way to protect the society and also the correspondence between us. See, there is a lot of controversy regarding the correspondence, if people know the details. And so you have to protect the correspondence. Say that, yes, I have got it from the masters. It is not written by Madame Blavatsky or not forged by Madame Blavatsky. And then he talks about Madame Blavatsky. Her body, which is rather old, weakened because of ill health, and rickety, is sometimes it's becoming dangerous. Maybe she is losing her cool and things like that. So her body, which is rather old, weakened due to ill health, rickety sometimes, becomes dangerous. Yet, whatever you may think of her, you should do all that is possible to fight the situation and protect the society and the correspondence between us. So this is something which we know. The correspondence, the two servants of hers, they went and said it is all written by Madame Blavatsky or forged by Madame Blavatsky. Nobody is giving it from the top, or the masters are not responsible for it. So master says, though you may feel that you have been put into difficult situations by Madame Blavatsky, she is what she is, says the Master KH. You can't change basically her fabric or her temperament. That being the case, in spite of all the above, the onus is still on you, all of you, to fight and face the situation. And there is stimulus to save the society in spite of difficulties created by her, meaning Blavatsky. As you feel, the correspondence should continue. That is the stimulus. He wants the correspondence to continue. So if that is the requirement, then you should save the society and save the correspondence. Master says, we would not have preferred HBB as agent if there was another more tractable, acceptable agent available. So this is something very interesting, because somewhere else also it is mentioned HBB and HSO were not the best, but among the best. Perhaps they chose these two people who are very unselfish in their outlook. So actually, HBB being there as a person who was transmitting the letters, it was quite advantageous to you. But you have alienated from her, you have separated from her for quite a period of time, though perhaps you are not separated from her forever. But in this process of alienating from Madame Blavatsky, you have thrown a lot of difficulties in my way. You have put a lot of difficulties on my way, says the Master KH. So, Madame Blavatsky and Sinnet not being happy together has increased the problems for Master KH. That's what he is indicating. Master KH says and reminds Sinnet about what he had said 2 years ago. If Madame Blavatsky were to die before a substitute was found, he wouldn't have received all the letters, barring few. So the communication with the outside world also would have been very difficult. It would have come to an end. Master says, HBB is virtually dead. This is something which He has said that in the letter. Virtually dead. And it is you, yourself alone, who have killed our faithful agent, being rude to her at times. Master says, pardon me for saying one more truth. What is the other truth he talked about? The two books which I have written have opened up the door of occultism to public. Moreover, Master says Blavatsky was actually working for you, and personally she was devoted to you, says the Master. Master says, let us drop this subject as it is not palatable for you. Master says, I have tried my best to stop the worst, but I didn't have the jurisdiction nor control over her. You know, she is directly connected to the other master, Master M. So he says, I don't have control or jurisdiction to control her or change her. For that matter, I have no better chance either with Mrs. Holloway. Mr. Sinnet is promoting Holloway as she is a person who is capable of clairvoyance and all that. So perhaps she could be a better person to transmit the letters, is what Mr. Sinnet is feeling. Mrs. Holloway is a magnificent subject naturally, but Master says, but she is so distrustful of herself and others. She is one who is apt to take real for hallucination and vice versa. It will take a long time before she becomes a controllable or useful person to us. Even by herself, she is not useful as transmitting agent. Master says she is far from being ready. Mrs. Holloway is far from being ready. Master adds, neither she understands herself nor understands us. Really speaking, our ways are not your ways. This is an emphatic statement. Our ways are not your ways. The way we look at things is not the way you look at it. So come unto our world is the statement made by the masters. So our ways are not your ways. So there is little hope for us to choose an agent in the West, transmitting agent from the West. This is what Master is saying. So here I end the part 1 of this letter number 66. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Now I request Sister Meenakshi to give the Hindi translation.
नमस्ते, थैंक यू ब्रदर कृष्णा जी। आज हम क्रोनोलॉजिकल लेटर नंबर 131 ले रहे हैं, जो कि मास्टर के एपी सिनेट को लिखते हैं। मास्टर सिनेट से कहते हैं कि किन्हीं वैध कारणों से मैं न तो एल्बरफील्ड में आपके पत्र का उत्तर दे सका, न ही मिसेस हॉलोवे के माध्यम से आप तक पहुंच सका। चूंकि मुख्य माध्यम एचपीबी का उपयोग करना असंभव हो गया है, जिनके माध्यम से मैं आप तक पहुंचा हूं, इसलिए मैंने सामान्य डाक का उपयोग किया। इसके लिए भी एक मित्र से अधिक शक्ति खर्च करने की आवश्यकता होती है, जिसकी आप कल्पना भी नहीं कर सकते। यदि सत्य बताने से भलाई हो सकती है, तब एक मित्र का कर्तव्य यह नहीं कि वह उसे छिपाए। आगे मास्टर कहते हैं कि यदि आप मुझसे हमेशा के लिए पत्र व्यवहार बंद करना नहीं चाहते, तब स्वयं पर आपको कड़ी नजर रखनी। व्यक्ति और उनके उद्देश्यों के प्रति गलत धारणा बनाकर आप अपनी अविवेकता के कारण अपने में कट्टरता या हठधर्मिता की प्रवृत्ति को बढ़ावा दे रहे। अपने कठोर वृत्ति से सावधान रहे। यह आपके साधना मार्ग में भूखे भेड़िए जैसे सामने आएगा और आपके स्वभाव के सद्गुणों को, अच्छे गुणों को जो उभर कर आ रहे हैं, उन्हें हड़प लेगा। अपने दया भाव को संकुचित न करके उन्हें विकसित करें। जिनसे आपका लगाव है, सिर्फ उन्हीं से अपना संबंध न रखकर बाकी साथी सदस्यों के साथ जुड़ने का प्रयास करें। आगे मास्टर कहते हैं कि अड्यार के हेडक्वार्टर्स में चाहे कर्नल ऑलकॉट की गलतियां हो, या इलाहाबाद में सीनेट की, या मास्टर के स्वयं की लापरवाही हो, या एचपीबी की, यह संकट काल है और आपके व्यवहार में नैतिक मनोबल को पूरी तरह बढ़ाने का समय है। यह समय तिरस्कार या प्रतिशोध की भावना से दोषारोपण का नहीं है, बल्कि एकजुट होकर संकट का सामना करने का है। जिसने भी वर्तमान स्थिति के आंधी के बीज बोए हैं, बवंडर जोरों पर है। पूरी सोसाइटी इसके चपेट में है और इस तूफान को शिगात्से से भी कमजोर नहीं किया जा सकता। आप प्रोबेशंस पर हंसते हैं। यह शब्द आपके लिए लागू होने पर हास्यास्पद लगता है। मास्टर कहते हैं कि आप भूल जाते हैं कि चाहे विचारों में हो, जो भी व्यक्ति हमारे क्षेत्र की ओर बढ़ता है वह प्रोबेशन के भंवर में खींचा जाता है। किसी भी तरह आपके श्रद्धा का मंदिर डगमगा रहा है। यदि उसकी दीवारों को दृढ़ता के कंधों का सहारा नहीं देंगे तो सैमसन की तरह आपकी दशा होगी। वर्तमान की कठिन परिस्थिति में गर्व और तिरस्कार काम नहीं आएंगे। रूपकों के रूप में द्वारा समझा जाए तो खजाने की रक्षा निष्ठावान नोम्स और फ्रेंड्स करते हैं, यानी बोने और शैतान। वह खजाना हमारा गूढ़ ज्ञान है, जिसे आप में से कई लोग खोज रहे हैं, खासकर आप। एचपीबी या ओलकॉट ने या व्यक्तिगत तौर पर किसी अन्य ने नहीं, बल्कि आपने उनसे और सोसाइटी के अन्य सभी को मिलाकर सबसे ज्यादा इसकी रक्षा करने वालों को जागृत किया है। ऑकल्ट वर्ल्ड और एसोटेरिक बुद्धिज्म जैसी किताबें उन निष्ठावान संरक्षकों की नजरों से बच नहीं सकती। यह नितांत आवश्यक है कि जिनके पास यह ज्ञान होगा उन्हें पूरी तरह से आजमाया और परखा जाना चाहिए। महात्मा गणों में से सिर्फ मेरे बंधु मास्टर एम और मैं कुछ हद तक हमारे सिद्धांतों के प्रचार के करने का मनोरथ रखते हैं, और इसे प्रसारित करने का हमारा एकमात्र साधन अत्यंत आज्ञाकारी प्रतिनिधि एचपीबी है। मास्टर कहते हैं कि एचपीबी के जीर्ण बूढ़े शरीर के बावजूद हमारे बीच के पत्र व्यवहार को बने रहने में, परिस्थिति को सुधारने में और कार्य को गति देने में वे पूरी कोशिश करती है। उन्हें जैसा होना चाहिए था वे वैसी ही है। चाहे आप समझते हो कि उन्होंने मुश्किलें तैयार की, लेकिन उनसे आपकी कार्य सिद्धि होने में आप बहुत प्रेरित हुए। एचपीबी से आप लाभान्वित ही हुए, फिर भी आपने लंबे समय तक उनसे अलगाव रखा, जिस कारण मेरी परेशानियां और बढ़ी। याद करें मैंने आपसे 2 साल पहले क्या कहा था। यदि मैडम ब्लेवेट्स्की का देहांत होने से पहले कोई विकल्प नहीं मिलता, तब भौतिक जगत से संबंध स्थापित करने में जिन शक्तियों द्वारा हम कार्य करते हैं वह केवल 2 या 3 और पत्र को हस्तांतरित करने की अनुमति देंगे। इसके बाद यह समाप्त हो जाए और आपको मुझसे कोई पत्र नहीं प्राप्त होंगे। आगे मास्टर कहते हैं कि एचपीबी लगभग मर ही गई है। मैंने बुराई को रोकने के लिए पूरी कोशिश की, लेकिन मेरा न तो उस पर अधिकार है और न ही उसे संचालित कर सकता, और न ही मिसेस हॉलोवे से कोई उम्मीद रख सकता। मिसेस हॉलोवे स्वाभाविक रूप से एक उत्तम व्यक्ति है, लेकिन वे न ही स्वयं पर विश्वास रखती है और न ही दूसरों पर। वे सत्यता को मतिभ्रम और मतिभ्रम को सच्चाई मानती है, और उसने न तो स्वयं को जाना है और न ही हमें। स्वयं पर संपूर्णतः नियंत्रण लाने को उन्हें लंबा समय लगेगा। वह अभी तैयार नहीं है। थैंक यू। नमस्ते।
Thank you, sister. So now we open up the forum for any questions or discussions. Firstly, we'll take up questions. Are there any questions?
Yes, madam. It is Lakshmisha from Bangalore. Krishna sir.
Yes.
Krishna sir. Master says to Sinnet, you cannot seek occultism. You should earn it. What does it mean and how to do that?
Yeah. unless one becomes eligible to receive, unless he becomes a person who is capable of receiving occult teachings. That means there is a lot of change which is required inwardly in a person. It is not just something which is bestowed upon us just because he is a member of the TS or member of something, but there is something like sadhana which he is supposed to do. The element of trying to achieve certain things like unselfishness, for example. Unselfishness, for example, if that is taken care of, and if a person becomes unselfish, yes, he becomes one of the major qualifications to become a chela. And the devotion he shows towards the masters, all these things will help him to earn the eligibility to become a student of occultism. So if you have gone through the practical occultism, in the first paragraph itself, he says it's very, very difficult. It's not something which is very easy to become the occultist. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No, sir. What is dignified contempt in simple words?
Dignified. See, I don't have a good opinion, but I keep it to myself. I don't express it. I don't work against it. So that's a silent contempt which I have, a dignified contempt I have. That means I don't want to act on it. I don't want to say yes. I don't want to say I have this contempt which is there within me, which is expressed, and I would take action which would be necessary to fight the case. That's the thing. If I'm simply silent about it, not talking about it, only talking about it, not doing anything, is not worth it. So that is dignified contempt or silence way of expressing oneself.
Well, okay, sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Would anybody like Vibhaji, Shindeji, would you like to add something?
No, I'm good, Vimalji. I think Krishna ji has explained the letter well, very nicely. So there's nothing more I can add to.
Okay.
I see sir is traveling somewhere, but he still took the time to explain us this letter. So thank
Yeah,
you for
I'm
that.
going to the doctor. I'm going to the doctor.
We hope all is well.
Yeah. All is well. It's a routine checkup.
Okay, then I think we should end the session. Okay. So, okay, everybody, I think this is our last session for the year. So
Yeah.
very happy 2025 to all of you. Those who are coming to RDR, most welcome. I hope you have a great convention, and let's all join together in quiet prayer.
Yeah.
Astuma Satgamaya, Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityurma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti, Shanti.
Tiffin center తర్వాత.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you all.
Thank you. First building on the left.